Welcome, everyone. I'm Anya Brickman-Raridan. I'm the current president of AMITA, and am delighted to welcome Manshi Low to the Zoom screen this evening for a discussion. I think there are always a lot of questions about sort of career pivots and where we are in our careers, and AMITA is, always looking for opportunities to help provide new perspectives on how to think about that, wherever anyone may be in the career paths. So welcome, and I believe this will be a pretty interactive event tonight. So please keep it respectful. Regular Zoom rules apply. Raise hands where you can, put things in chat if you have other things. We have a few other AMITA board members available who will be monitoring all of that, as well as Moana, who's with the Alumni Association and helps support AMITA's event. So big thank you to her. So a little bit about Manshi. I'll let her describe the work because this is her work and her path. But Manshi is an MIT alumna from 05. She was an engineer and an MBA and worked in corporate worlds for 15 or so years, if I have that right. And then decided it was time for some reevaluation and found some ways to do that. And found some insights, and I believe wants to share some of your own story as well as provide some opportunities for us to all reflect on where we are in our careers and if we're looking for insights and one way of thinking about how to find them. So welcome, Manshi, and I'll turn the floor over to you and look forward to a good conversation. I already apologized to Manshi. I have a toddler and we'll need to shift in about 15 minutes or so as my care is leaving and we'll need to go take care of him. But I hope the conversation continues beyond that, and I look forward to hearing from folks afterwards as to your thoughts. So Manshi, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Anya. Thank you for the welcome. So if you're here, I'm guessing you're either looking for a job right now or you're looking for a career reboot or evaluating your career. So I'm already seeing a lot of people in the room, a lot of responses. So thank you for being honest. Thank you for sharing, because we're all in this together, and a lot of us could relate to the feelings of FOMO and uncertainty and fear and bravery and all that combined. Okay, so this is a highly interactive workshop. So we're going to do a lot of work. I packed a lot of stuff in 90 minutes, and we're going to have a breakout towards the end. So if I could get started, let me see what this. Yeah. Okay, so 3 handy things. So you will be typing. So hopefully you're logged in to your laptop. If not, this is a good opportunity to get on a laptop or something that's easy to type. We're going to do a breakout in the second half. So if you're able to talk, that'll be great, or else it'll be a room with people who can't talk. And the third is, if you want to personalize your experience, you could pull up your human design chart, but it's not necessary. It's totally optional. And the link was in the email, but I'm going to pop it in here and see if I could pin it too. And what it's going to ask you for is let's see if I could pin this too. Pin? No. So that's for your human design chart. So it's going to ask you for your birth date, birth time, and your birth location. If you don't want to do it, it's also fine. It's totally up to you. It just helps to personalize your experience. Okay. And this is the structure of today's workshop. So 90 minutes together. The first half, we're going to do some self-exploration. And what I'm going to do is to walk you through a very simple method to explore where you're feeling about your career, about your life, about your mission, about the world in general. Then we're going to take a short break, 5 to 10 minutes. And then the second half, we're going to explore a little bit more and then go into the breakout rooms and to really translate what we did in the first half into something that's more tangible. So at the end of the workshop, you'll be able to have a more concrete idea of at least where to look, because it's just very overwhelming. I've been there, and we're so talented, we're so smart, we're fast learners, we could do everything, but we don't need to go through that craziness just to come to clarity. Okay. So, any questions before we begin on logistics, on the workshop? Any questions from anyone? Okay. So today we're going to start at taking inventory and looking at where we are today. So I'm just trying to see, is there currently less than 100 people in the room? It's less. Okay, I'll just share one spreadsheet in a moment. Okay.
We've got 133 participants right now.
133. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share two spreadsheets because it's a Google sheet and a spreadsheet one. So pick a number between 1 and 100, and then put your initials or some identifier into it. Okay, this is spreadsheet 1, and if all the numbers are taken, you could go into spreadsheet 2, because it only allows up to 100, I think, on a stable basis. This is spreadsheet 2. The questions are exactly the same, doesn't matter which one you pick. Okay, so, oh yeah, so Diane, yeah, you could just pick just pick one number. You could just put it directly into one of the two spreadsheets.
I'm not seeing a spreadsheet.
Do you see it in the chat?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. All right. So once you put your identifier in, and I'll look for people to, should we start answering the questions? I'm going to tell you when to answer them. We're going to start with the first two questions. So number 1, how would you describe yourself with an adjective and a noun? So an adjective that evokes an emotion. So an ambitious executive, a driven engineer, something that is very, or a fun artist, or something that would evoke an emotion when somebody hears you say that. So describe yourself in a emotive adjective and a noun.
Manshi, just FYI, the second spreadsheet is denying access. The first one you get into.
Okay, let me check why. Sorry. I have the Zoom stuff hanging over my my browser. I'm trying to, okay, let me see if I could go share.
Okay, I'm going to reshare the spreadsheet links because people are losing track of them. So I'm just going to put them in again.
Apologies, this is, okay, this should work now. Done. And then share, and then review, and then share. Yeah, that should work.
Mine's saying not available due to heavy traffic.
Yeah, I'm getting the same thing
For the second one?
For the first one.
for the first one.
It is working if you try that link.
Yeah, two just opened up.
Yeah.
It does look like a lot of people were able to access, but I'm wondering, Manshi, if we should open up a third. I don't know how long it takes you to do that. If it's quick.
Yeah, I could do that. Let me share. Okay. Let's bring it to the original one. Mm-mm-mm. So maybe 100 was too many. All right.
Well, they lied to you.
Okay, make copy. Okay. Mhm. Right. I'm just changing the access so everyone can. Okay. And this is spreadsheet 3. Okay, so for the ones who are already picked your identifier, answer question number 1 using an emotive emoji and a noun. So an adjective, emotive, not emoji, adjective and a noun. So like ambitious executive or driven engineer, something that would give people a sense of an emotion. And the second question is, what's your biggest question at the moment? And preferably it will start with the word what. So Amy, you could just pop your answer into one of the spreadsheets that you could get into. So there are 3 open right now. So you could just pop it right in. So pick a spreadsheet, put in an initial or identifier, and then the answer the first 2 questions. And then the second one, which is what is your biggest question at the moment? Let's try to start with what instead of how or why or am I or one of those. Okay. Yeah, so please don't try not to overwrite someone's line. If it's been there's their initials in there, just pick another row. Okay.
Yeah, and for people who haven't started yet, sheet 3 seems to be less populated, but if you're already working happily in sheets 1 or 2, please just stay there.
Alrighty, I think a lot of people are getting both their questions answered, so I'm just gonna move on to question 3. So question 3 is, are you the hustle type? So it's a yes, it's a no, or it's yes when, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I think a lot of people are caught up.
There's a question about what does hustle type mean?
Yeah, so do you feel like you're the type of person who can go out and hustle? Like whatever hustle, yeah. Hustle like hustle and grinding and like pitching and selling and like pushing and stuff like that, like the hustling type. And I'm just checking in the answers. Just pick a sheet. Right. Okay. So some yes, some no, some yes if or yes when. And I'm just going to go to next one. So hustling is this very forceful type of forcing a sale on repeat or forcing or forcefully elicit a job offer, or even unwillingly going against your values during your job. So when we're thinking of job hunting or where we're at a work, it's good to check in where you're at in terms of hustling. Like, are you hustling and you don't feel good about it, or you're hustling and you're like, I feel a little bit icky about it. And it's not really comfortable and it's not really fun. So what I'm going to share with you is there is an easier way to use our energy at work and in life. And we don't necessarily need to go into the hustle mode in order to get results or to get performance or to get an outcome. So for those people who have their human design chart, you could find your information on the chart. And if you didn't grab your chart, or you prefer not to grab your chart, you could just read the next slide and see which one you relate to the most. And for folks who don't have the chart created yet, I'm going to pop the link here again. This is where for generating your human design chart, you can go here. Okay, so for those who have the chart, you basically just scroll past.
That's a good question. You ask questions that are like just, you know, here, you don't take things for granted. Blow your nose.
All right.
I just muted her.
Yeah. So you could find your type. You could just scroll past the graphic and then scroll all the way down to your type or a strategy. So for example, mine says generator and yours might say something different. And then if we look at how we're designed to use energy, if you're a manifestor, for example, it's people who have this really strong urge to get something started now. So they don't necessarily hustle, but they have this urge to create something new or to get something started now. For generators and manifesting generators, these are the type of people's energy where it's more slow burning. So we are able to sustain long-term projects, or we're able to build bit by bit and really amplify the energy in the room. So it's very easy for us to other people look like we're hustling, but it's just really easy because we're always constantly creating. Yes, so there was a question, sorry, from Vanessa. So these types are based on your type and your date and your time of birth. That's correct. And then if you're a projector, it's more about borrowing energy from others so you can make the world more efficient and effective. So you're usually working with a team of people and leveraging that energy so you can work on a project or work on a collaboration. And then the last one, which is really rare, 1% of it's estimated 1% of the population has this type, is you're more here to move energy of the other types, the other 4 types, by mirroring what's happening. So what is so interesting about knowing how you use your energy is if sometimes when we're feeling not very satisfied at our current role, it's also related to we're not given the opportunity to just use our energy to build or use our energy to make things more efficient. We're doing maybe more administrative stuff or more stuff that we don't really care to do, and that kind of drags us down, and really it's not a good use of our time, our energy, and our talent. So just knowing the type of projects, the type of environments you want to be in is already really helpful in terms of finding the right industries, the right sub-segments that you want to be in. Sorry, I'm just checking on a couple of questions. This is chart layout. Yes, it should be, because I entered, so I was born in Hong Kong and I was able to do Hong Kong. So you put in the birth city and usually it will show up even if it's in Eastern Europe or Africa, that it usually does show up. If not, you could find a proxy in terms of the same time zone to the same city that you were born in. Yeah, so the astrology, so it looks like it's pulled from astrology, which is a bit of how it is created, but mainly it gives you a theme. It gives you a theme to work with. And if you prefer not to use the chart, you could just close out of it. That's totally cool. And you could just relate to it based on your gut. You could just say, well, based on these 5 types, I think I relate more to one versus the other. But really, it's more about understanding there is a spectrum, there is a range, and where you are in that range. So we're not all here to just show up to work and do 9 to 5 work. That doesn't work for every one of us, right? Because some of us are more creative, some of us are more into managing teams. So it's not necessarily a 9 to 5 kind of thing. So it's really just leaning into the themes and exploring it from that angle. So it's not a must to use the chart, but it's more to use the themes of the chart. For someone who don't know the exact time, you could either put 12 p.m. or just go with your gut. You don't have to pull up the chart. We can just go through the different questions. Yeah, you could approximate it. So for example, if you know you're born early morning, you say 3 a.m. Or if you're born in the afternoon, you could just pick 12 p.m. But the generic default is 12 p.m. of your birthday. Yeah, so I'm not collecting any information at all on my website. So just to, yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. And so when we think of our energy, it's really encompassing. So it is our energy in terms of our creativity, like I mentioned, and it's also in terms of our ideas, like the insights that we have when we process things. But our energy is also in terms of our ambition, or our willpower, or our need to contribute, our need to help another person. So it's really not just energy in terms of focus work, but it could also be energy in terms of helping others, building something creative, creating something beautiful. It's all of that. It's all encompassing. Yeah. So yes, the exhaustion is something you hear a lot, right? Whether you're a working mother or not a working mother, and that exhaustion sometimes can mean that you're just not using your energy in a correct outlet. And it's about exploring what would be a correct outlet for you. So some people, it is more time-based, right? Like it's not doing 9 to 5, but maybe they need a break in the middle of the day that's longer than the lunch break. And for some people, it is about having a creative container, a space where they are very creative. Or for some people, it is an environment that is very healthy, where they feel supported, they feel healthy, and that's the kind of environment they want to be in. And that's when their energy is not so drained. So it's really about those nuances of putting yourself into spaces that fits you versus you trying to fit yourself into an environment that you have no control over, that you just have to show up and do your job in that environment. So I was in your shoes once. And I was at a phase of my career, it was 15 years in corporate in the engineering environmental sector. And I was getting the sense that my talents weren't being used, that I was actually fed up, to be honest. I was fed up that my talents weren't being used. I was fed up that I couldn't seem to see a future in my current role. Like there's not a lot of growth opportunities. There's not a lot new things. And I just said I couldn't do this anymore one day. Like if you throw in the office politics, I just couldn't do this anymore. And so I went full gear to learning and job search. So I did everything underneath the sun, right? The podcasts, the self-help books, courses, anything to improve myself, anything to discover what my interests and my passions are. And it was ultimately extremely overwhelming because there's just so much out there. There's so many perspectives and so much it just got really overwhelming. And the worst part is about going to the job market. Like you feel very vulnerable, right? And well, at least I did. I felt really vulnerable and naked in the job market because I was an outsider. I wanted to pivot my career. Like I had no relevant experience. I didn't have the connections. And then you think, okay, what if this is not the right path for me? What if I'm not going to be happy taking this path? What if I'm going to regret this? And on hindsight, what I realized was I was really stuck in my left brain. I was super analytical, super structured, super organized, like a perfectionist. And I was like approaching my career pivot too much like problem solving, to be honest. And so I was looking for ways to express creativity and to express talent. And that's when I stumbled upon the themes that are presented in human design. And it's those, like, I was like you too, I was skeptical of astrology. Like I'm an engineer and I didn't want to have like my fate decided by a chart or something like that, but it's the themes that really opened up my eyes. It's the themes that are embedded in there that shows how I work, how you operate, you connect with people, you lead, you express yourself. So instead of fixating and obsessing, I learned to see the spectrum of experimenting and creating. So like whenever I have a strength, I could see, I could even stretch this strength further because I could flip it to the other side and it's still a strength, right? So if I'm being obsessive about detail, but I could also be creative, that's still the same side, right? Like it's still a strength at the end of the day. And that's when I started to see my what, I started to see my why and my how. And I made my career pivot into a new industry, into a new salary model and a new function. So I've learned to use the themes in human design to articulate talent in a very rich language so we can have our clarity and we can be more successful in our careers. So for those that are the question about the astrology part. So I'm going to just give a quick note on, so what is human design? There is a lot of information out there. You could Google it yourself, but in essence, what it is a science of differentiation. And what I found is most powerful about it is to understand your natural state of working and thinking. Like, are you, like the hustle question was something I got out of it. It's like, yeah, I was hustling when I was looking for a job and I didn't enjoy it at all, right? So how can I make it more enjoyable and more fun for myself? So if you decide to dabble more into it, remember to just use what is positively useful to you, and whatever is too much mumbo jumble or confusing, just discard it or park it. Like it's really about empowering you and helping you move forward. It's not to confuse you, or it's a tool basically. So don't use it to confuse yourself or to contradict yourself or to doubt yourself. Like if you get to that state, then close it and put it away, or find another source that gives you more positive or more empowering information. And it is not for fortune telling. So it's not for reading your future or, I don't know, telling you when you become a millionaire or a billionaire. But it gives you really strong clues on how you can be successful, how you can succeed in relationships, in work, in life, in parenting even. So just watching the time. Okay, good on time. Okay, so we're going to dig a little bit deeper. We're going to look into the next few questions. So question for everyone. How many times have you felt like in your career evaluation, your career reboot, that you have to force yourself to a networking event or force yourself to show up on LinkedIn and say something on LinkedIn just to build visibility, or force yourself to call a recruiter or friends up to tell them you're looking or you're exploring your career? And how many times you feel like you want to just retreat and hermit for days? It's crazy. It's like that. It's like that paradox I have of the introvert and extrovert, right? So we're gonna move on to the next slide here on your personality range. Okay, so on the left-hand side, pick either A, B, or C to describe when you want to be a hermit and retreat and just not talk to anyone, just want to be alone. Do you do it because you want to dive deep into an area and do research and learn? Or you're doing it because you want to just come up with genius ideas by yourself? Or you're doing it to reflect about what has happened and absorb the lessons so you can share it down the road? So if you look at column 4A, you could just pick A, B, or C. Just pick one of the three. And then if you look at the outward range, are you being out and about because you want to experiment things firsthand? Then pick D. Or if you like to connect with people you trust, then pick E. Or if you want to go out and solve problems for the greater good. Oh, yeah. Can I read the options out loud? Yeah, I just did. And let me see if I can even. Okay. Yeah, I might screw it up. I was trying to see if I could do a screenshot of it for you. I can. Let me see if I could do that. Oh yeah, someone's doing that. Oh, love it. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Yeah, sometimes it's a little tricky to multitask. Yeah. So if you put your the first column and the second column, the third column should pop up the profile numbers, and that's just a guess. So if you do have your human design chart, if you decided to do it, then you could compare it with your profile line. So if you scroll down all the way and you see the word profile, so for me, it's 4, 6. So my number is a 4 and a 6. And then you could check if it was a match or not for you, like how you feel inward and how you feel outward is a match with your D9. So I'm kind of curious to check in that. Yeah, it's just really I love the comment for the full letter. Sorry. Okay. So just to answer, sorry, the questions flew by really quickly. So if you picked let me just, oh yeah, so here it is. So if you picked ABC, that's 1, 2, and 6, and then DEF is 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, so that is the yeah, so the order is not that important right now. It was 1 and a 4 and a 4 and 1. So it's really okay. So I'm gonna go back just to Hillary's question. I'll go back to the previous one. Okay, so it's A, B, C, and then D, E, F.
Hey, Manshi, where are we looking for the match or not match?
So if you if you had pulled your human design chart, if you had pulled that, then you could just scroll towards the middle of it that says profile. And then you'll see here. No. So you'll see profile, and then it's like one number and then a slash and another number. So it's 4 and 6. Okay. So I'm just gonna go through the exercise for some folks. Looking at the slide, on the first column, you pick A, B, or C based on your so-called introversion, like when you want to just hole up in your room and not be disturbed, right? So you could either be doing it because you really just want to dive deep into a topic, or like read or go really deep into something, do research or gather facts or something like that. B is to come up with genius solutions. You're like, oh, I just want to think of brilliant ways to do things. Or C is because you want to reflect what has happened and learn the lessons, like pick out the lessons so you can share it with somebody else. And then on the second column, the B column, you could pick D, E, or F, and that is picking when you are more outgoing. Is it because you want to be outgoing because you want to experiment with things firsthand and try things, trial and error, and really get into things? Or is it because you want to connect with people you trust? Or if you want to solve problems for the greater good? Okay. And then the numbers will just tie out to these numbers in essence. And the order doesn't matter. Like if you came up with 1, 4 versus 4, 1, it doesn't matter. So A, B, C, D. So D is a 3 and yeah, okay. All right. So one of the things I heard during my career switch is go network. So I did, like I did over 60 coffee chats. I just was squeezing them in. I want to meet more people. I want to learn more about different industries, and I'll sometimes force myself to have small chat because I really wanted a job, right? And then I'm just wiped out. I'm drained. But knowing my profile lines, like just knowing that there are times when I do need to go into retreat because there's a reason to, and knowing that sometimes I want to be outward and it's effortless for me, then I just respect it that sometimes I just need to dip in or out, right? Like I don't have to be constantly being out there to network, because sometimes I just want to be alone, because for me, I'm a 4 and a 6. So I'm just wanting to reflect on what has happened in the past week and learn. And then when I'm done to learning, then I'll be out and about again. But it's just knowing that there's no 100% on extrovert and there's no 100% on introvert. And it's because there's a reason, there's a reason why we're introverting. And there's a reason why we're extroverting. And it's not good or bad. It's just your spectrum. It's your range. You just sometimes feel more like this, and sometimes you feel more like that. That's all. And so for some people, you may find that, so for some people, for example, the line one people who love to hibernate and really, like hole up in a library or behind your computer and do your thing, like digging deep into formulas and facts and figures and things like that. You may find it more effective and more energizing to just stay home and do that, right? To write a blog post, for example, of what you observed or what you researched, like something that's really deep, like something that has a lot of substance, and post it out to the world. And then other people could stumble upon your blog and knock on your door to ask you a question, to invite you to a podcast, to ask you to co-author a book. So this actually happened to my cousin-in-law. Like he wrote a book about AI and graphs learning. He just wrote a post, and a publisher knocked on his door and said, "Hey, do you want to co-author a book with us?" So he signed a book deal, but it was totally unexpected, unplanned. It wasn't with an agenda. So one of the things I've learned is when you're leaning into your introversion and your extroversion, you can use it to your advantage. So for example, when you're leaning inwards, of the 1, 2, or 6 lines, you can share certain things that is so relatable to you, and that draws people in. So for example, the one line that I was mentioning, when you have a lot, when you're here, you love to have deep expertise, and usually it's multiple subjects. And people are drawn to you because they find the security in the facts that you share. They like that. They're like, oh, I feel good that somebody has the facts. I feel good somebody knows a lot about this topic. And people are drawn to you. They want to learn from you. They want to collaborate with you. And it's the same with the 2 line. Like if you share what you intuitively know, even though you don't know how you know it, people are drawn to you because your solutions just work. Even if you had no background in it, they just work. And the 6th line, just sharing what you've been through, like the wisdom in the lessons learned, the wisdom in it. People are drawn because they feel inspired that someone is walking the talk. So it's kind of like, instead of feeling bad, you're not networking enough or not being outspoken enough at work or in a job market, you could use it to your advantage, because that inwardness is also a strength. There's also a gift in it. There's also something very powerful behind it. And so you don't have to push yourself out of it to do something else. You could just stay in there and own it, and people will come knocking at your door. And for the outward ones, for example, the 3 line, it's about sharing your experiments. Oh, I did this, it failed, or I did this, it was successful. And people are drawn to you because your work sounds so cutting edge and so fun. Or if you're a 4 line, you could share your heartfelt words in a conversation, right? You're very genuine, or in your post, or in your blogs, or in your writing. And people are drawn, and they want it to be added into your circle, your circle of friends or your connections. And then if you're a line 5, share about your mission or your cause that is dear to you, because people will be drawn to your practical way of problem solving. So again, even in your extrovertedness, it's not normal. It's usually viewed like you're one or the other, or it's just a personality thing. But what I've learned to see is there is a inclination behind it. Like you're introverting to do something or to be something, and you're extroverting to do something or to be something. So you could use that for your career. You could use it in your hobbies. You could use it in your life. And I just thought that was a really, really like interesting paradigm. I don't know if I'm missing any questions or people. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes we relate to different things. So in essence, we have actually all of these lines in us, but the profile line just shows you the dominant ones. That's all. But you would have, like, even if you're a line 2, you could still feel like line 1 sometimes, and that's normal. It's not, again, it's not to pigeonhole you, but it's just that's your more dominant one. That's the only difference. Okay, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break. But before you do that, could you just pop in the fifth question, what has been your biggest aha moment for the first half? Just what's been your biggest moment for what we've covered so far? And then we can resume at, say, a 5-minute break. We'll do a 5-minute break, so we'll break till 11, I'm sorry. It's your time, 5:50, say 5:53. Does that sound good, Julie?
Yeah, 5:53 Eastern. Not everybody's in the same time zone. People are from all over the place. So sure, 5:53 Eastern time. Translate that into your own time zone. Thank you.
All right, see you guys back in 5. I love one of the comments where someone mentioned about being able to leverage AI more. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, if that person wanted to share more in the chat or unmute their phone. Okay. I think most of the people are back. Okay, so we're going to look at, I'm gonna move this. Yeah. Okay. So next, we're going to look at what fuels your grit. So the tenacity, that resilience, that strength, that focus. So that's what I call looking at your powerhouses. It's a word that I made up. So we are going to have you look at this list, and it's the same that is in columns 6A, B, and C. So there are different ways that you're feeling your grit. And you could just pick your top 3. So you could say, well, I think I have the willpower and I have a lot of instincts and I have a lot of intellectual ideas. Then you just pick the 3. The order doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what you feel into, like what really describes you the best. The numbers will be question, what is that? 6A, 6B, and 6C. So there are drop downs already for you, and you could just pick 3 drop downs, basically. Okay. Okay, and when that's done, we're going to look at where you like to hang out the most. You know, I'm gonna give people a little bit more time. It's hard to monitor 3 spreadsheets. I need a dashboard for this. Just gonna give another 5 seconds or so. Okay, so then the next question is, where do you like to hang out? So it's not a physical location, it's actually in terms of time. So for example, I'm very future looking, and I always thought everyone is future looking until I realized people hang out in different zones. Like some of us like to look to the past, like what has happened before, so they can borrow lessons from the past, look at the evolution of things, look at patterns and trends in history. And some of us like to focus on what's happening right now, like current affairs, what's at hand, like what is the fire we need to fight today. And then there's some of us that we like to look more into the future, what's going to happen in 5 years, in 2 generations time, looking more at possibilities and potential. So There's, again, no right or wrong answer. Sometimes you feel like, oh, it depends on the situation, but it really just pick the one that resonates with you the most. Okay. So I'm just seeing how people are doing. Okay. See, people are filling in. Okay, so I've started to see that we are able to move on to the next one. So if you have a piece of paper, I'm going to have you scribble a summary of what you've pulled together, so then we can put you into breakout rooms. Okay, oops. All right, so if you have a piece of paper or you want to type it, whichever way, go back to your first question with that adjective and noun. I'm just trying to pull an example. I just came up with like ambitious executive. I love to retreat to do this. I love to be outward to do this. And I will show you the slide again. My grit comes from these three areas. And I look to the past, present, future to fulfill my mission. Can I ask someone to screenshot this so I can go back to the retreat and outward one, so then that one can be pulled up? If a participant could kindly screen. Oh, perfect, JJ, thank you. All right, so I'm just gonna go back to the other slide. Yeah. So in the letters, it's just A, B, C, D, E, F. So 1 is A, 2 is B. So that's the. Can we please put the participants into groups of 3 as breakout? So what I'd like you to do is just to say, hi, I'm Manshi. I'm ambitious executive. I love to retreat to blah, blah, blah. I love to, and then you just read through what you've written. And then the other 2 people in the room will ask you a couple more questions and try to give you some ideas of career options. So maybe they're like, well, do you like to, I don't know, work in nature or work with kids or work with AI or something. And then the other 2 people will, based on what you told them, brainstorm career options for you. So they don't necessarily know your job title at this moment or your CV and your years of experience in whichever industry. They're just really looking at you. They're just really looking at you to, like, with a fresh piece of paper and just bouncing ideas and say, hey, have you considered this? Well, and try to get at least 3 different career options for each one in the room. So it's really intimate breakout rooms. There's only 3 people, and we're going to do it for 20 minutes. We could even do, yeah, we'll do it for 20 minutes. And then we will, yeah. And then we'll come back out again. So we can, there's one more bit before we wrap up. Okay. So how's everyone feeling with the breakout session? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up, yeah. Mine was really fun. I don't know about other ones. It was just like, Helen was able to guess McKinsey's like current role. That's so funny. It was like, oh. Yeah, and what is amazing is it was just a few sentences. It was like 4 or 5 sentences, and it got people to, yeah, to really see a side of you that you don't have to spend ages to break ice and do small talk and get to know each other better. I thought it was really, yeah, I thought it was really fun. Okay, so and one more thing I want to leave you away with is about creating opportunities for yourself. So applying for jobs is one way, one path, but there are more. So one thing I've learned from being in the entrepreneurial world is creating opportunities for yourself. And how do you do it? And how do you do it, right? So it turns out people trust people they're familiar with, right? And if you want to get your foot in the door, if you want to get really warmed up with a company or with a sector or with an industry or with a team that you're really interested in working with, it just makes sense, right? Get them to be familiar with you and see if you could build trust with them over time. And secondly, the second thing I learned about in the entrepreneurial world that I think is so relevant for a career switch or for a career boost is that success is a long-term game. And what I mean by that is it's literally taking little steps until you get there. It's just so cliche, but it's true. And so what we want to do is we want to become more familiar to the people in the new industry that we want to enter into, and just take sustained actions that continue to build your credibility and your longevity. So yes, we want to apply for jobs, go through the traditional route, but also think about and be open-minded and creative and experimental on how you can create opportunities for yourself. So if you think of the exercise, in the first half where we talked about the hustling part, and some of us could do it, but most of us were like, we really prefer not to hustle. So if we take something that we can borrow from something that I stumbled upon is called MBIT, Multiple Brain Integration Techniques. It was developed by Grant Sushalu and Marvin Oka, and it's based on applied neuroscience and behavioral modeling. That in order to be more familiar to people, we can use a different part of us. So it's not all through the head and being intellectual and being smart and being logical, but you could also use your other brains in your body. So there's more than one brain in our body with other brains in our body. So the head brain is great, but in order to really get people to warm up, it is about also stepping into your heart, right? Like, what is your style of being authentic, of being close to your values, and how you connect with people in your own way? So if networking is not a thing for you, that's fine. Find another way to build familiarity that you can see yourself in the new industry or the new company that you want to get hired in, or that they get familiar with you. And if you think about it, like sometimes when people say, just follow your heart, right? It's really, there's something really powerful about being able to be open in terms of your heart, being vulnerable, being authentic, being more like a human and less like I'm a professional, I'm very tenured and stuff like that. So as much as we want to keep to a professional front, We also want to show our relaxed side, our fun side, our funny side, our approachable side, and build that familiarity with a potential employer, a new industry, or a new network of people. Also, on taking the sustained action, so it really comes from courage, right? It's the courage of knowing what you want to do in order to contribute in the new industry. So really, really have to think about what contributions you want to make in the new industry, anchor into that, and use your gut brain to really move yourself forward and take the steps needed in the industry. So you move away from trying to be the perfect candidate on paper, but to more like the real person, like someone people could see like, hey, I know you, I understand where you're coming from, and I know where you want to bring the industry to. So that opens up more doors from you than just applying for jobs. Because I hear that from the people that I talk to, they literally just do like the head brain work. Like I need to look for a job. I'm going to apply for a lot of jobs, and then I'm going to go to the interview if I'm invited to one. But I also encourage you that if you are open to opening your heart and really relaxing and really not blend in or melt in, but kind of just be in the industry, chatting with people or texting or emailing or discussing things with people, having this very relaxed and approachable approach, it could open a lot more doors for you than to apply for jobs online in an online portal. And also about taking that forward action, like in terms of knowing why you want to be in that industry, how you want to contribute, and really using that to fuel your actions, whether it's to write I don't know, it could be writing a paper or expressing your opinions or inviting people for conversations and collaborations, and really open up more doors for yourself that way. So as a wrap up, I wanted to thank you for coming. There is a survey form that is at the last tab of the last tab of the sheet. I'm going to also pop it in here if I can. And I know let's see if I can do this chat. Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming. Yeah. So I would really, really appreciate any feedback you have. I know it's a little radical in some sense, but I hope you got to see how just by being more authentic, you can open more doors for yourself to explore what you want to do, to explore your passion, and to explore how you could bring more contributions to the world, because we are all here to learn, we're all here to grow, and it's not a job is like a means, and ultimately it's the career that we want to build. So I really appreciate you coming. If you could fill out that feedback form, that'll be great. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes. There's 7 questions in there. Yeah, I see a question. Do I coach, or how can I follow up? Yeah, my email, I'll just pop my email in here too. Love to. So you just drop me a note. I'm also on LinkedIn. Yeah, there we go. And
could you put the survey in again? Because it probably got high up in the chat for everybody.
yeah, I put survey, survey here. And here's my LinkedIn.
All right, so we're a little over time, so I'm gonna close up real quick. So first of all, thank you so much, Manshi, for sharing your experience and different ways of thinking about how to approach your career with us. We had a lot of interaction and a lot of different thoughts. There were some questions about saving the chat, so we'll we'll do that, and also questions about sharing information. So I'll follow up with you afterwards, Manshi, that maybe we can disseminate to people who attended the meeting, you know, the slides and information or whatever you're willing to share.
Mhm.
But before we close, I just want to tell people about some things we have coming up in for AMITA. Next week, there is a pay equity workshop. That it's not up on our site yet, but it will be very soon. It's hybrid, so if you're in town in Cambridge, you can go look for it, or you can log in online because it will be hybrid. So that's going to be on the 18th. We also have an MIT reunion brunch coming up. So if you are going to be in Cambridge reunion weekend, do look for the brunch. It's just a social event. We'd love to see you. We're going to have some fun, ice-breaking things to do, to kind of get us all networking and having some fun in a very low-stress way. And then the other thing is the annual meeting is going to be June 9th. It's going to be completely online. And we haven't posted it yet, but we do have Sally Kornbluth, the MIT president, is going to be our guest speaker for our annual meeting. So that's exciting. Yeah. Woohoo. Of course, if she gets called away by, you know, I don't know, a congressional hearing or something, we may have to have a backup. But the plan is to have Sally Kornbluth, and we're really excited about that. So, all right. Thank you again, Manshi, and thanks everybody for participating.
Thank you. Bye.